For Manchester to the red half, then Henry in the Telegraph, a story on Erik ten Hag, who's never out the press for long, as he twin shadows over ten Hag are cleared, but dark cloud still looms. Those twin shadows being Thomas Tuchel, we know what's happened to him, and Gareth Southgate, who's said that he's going to have a year off. Good news for Erik.
Yes, but that dark cloud still looms in terms of Brentford at the weekend. Thomas Frank is an outstanding manager. Apparently there was some contact between Manchester United and him in the past. And so, no, absolutely. I think those particular shadows may have moved on. And I mean, you could argue maybe another one in terms of Sir Alex Ferguson's shadow. He cast a long shadow because of his excellence as a manager, because of what he achieved at Manchester United, and the fact that Ineos decided in their wisdom that they didn't want to keep paying him £2 million a year for the ambassadorial role, whether rightly or wrongly. If Sir Alex Ferguson is going to have a slightly lesser profile, then maybe that might help Ten Hag. But you would also look at someone like Sir Alex Ferguson and say, well, he is absolutely the gold standard and what the players and the manager should be striving towards. So, yeah, maybe it's three shadows, but, he's got to deliver. He's lost one or two more players. There's doubts over, Kobbie Mainoo is definitely out. Garnacho, he's got to be tested properly, I assume, at Carrington tomorrow. So, look, there are always issues with Manchester United. And literally, he's almost fighting game by game to keep his job.
Yeah, and that game by game, Dave, Henry mentioned Brentford being a tough game. It doesn't get much tougher than Fenerbahce in Istanbul, where a certain Jose Mourinho waits, and I'm sure he'd be very happy to stick the knife in, because that's kind of the way he operates.
You took the words out of my mouth there. I'm off to Istanbul next week for that game, and it's going to be quite tasty, I think, and Jose will revel in it. I don't think he's had the best of starts, actually, at Fenerbahce, but I think Mourinho, more than most, enjoys maybe sticking the knife into former employers, I'm sure he has nothing against Ten Hag personally whatsoever, but I think he would revel in being the man who finished off Ten Hag. And Mourinho will tell us, I'm sure, that finishing second in the Premier League with Manchester United was one of his greatest achievements of his glittering career. He really rates that achievement. Just to have got close with United in the state they've been in the decade or so since Ferguson left. But yeah, that will be interesting. Brentford at home feels like the sort of game that United can easily lose. I think they lost at home to Fulham and Bournemouth last year. Brentford were a very good side, particularly set pieces, and we've seen how they keep scoring in the first minute. If they score in the first minute at Old Trafford on Saturday, then that's going to really get some nerves rattling, I think, in the home dugout. So we shall see. But yeah, I think it's interesting that both Southgate talking about having a sabbatical, being out of the picture, and Tuchel taking the England job. They were two of the leading candidates for the United job, but someone will always want that United job. If they decide to get rid of Ten Hag, I don't think the unavailability of those two guys is going to make a huge amount of difference.
Okay.
That point, because you mentioned Man United there, and clearly, I think a lot of people saw that potential opening if Ten Hag was to be sacked as where Thomas Tuchel may land. United are big fans of Thomas Tuchel. I mean, it started when Radcliffe was actually trying to buy Chelsea, or made a bid to buy Chelsea, because Thomas Tuchel was in charge of Chelsea at the time, and their due diligence at the time, the info that was fed back to Radcliffe and his team was that Tuchel was fantastic, a fantastic manager, fantastic tactician, and they were quite impressed with that. Obviously, then that has led to last summer, where Radcliffe and Thomas Tuchel have met to discuss a potential opening at Man United. What Man United did was, between about April, when results really started to go south at the end of last season, and the end of their end of season review in the summer, was to sound out a load of different candidates. Someone's told me that it was far more, the names involved were far more than actually have even been reported, because some of those conversations were simple as, what are your plans? And the info that came back was, oh, look, I'm happy where I am, kind of thing. Other candidates went further down the line. There was a select few, of which Thomas Tuchel was one, where it went even further than that. It came into quite in-depth discussions about what Man United would look like under Thomas Tuchel. The information that came back from some of those meetings from Tuchel's side was that he wasn't completely happy or completely comfortable with the structure that Man United were proposing, and that this was an opinion that he had before he sat down with the United bosses, that he kind of felt that maybe it wasn't the right fit. And after he sat down with them, he was kind of told, well, you're going to be the manager in this structure, but above you, there's going to be Omar Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox. And then above them, there's going to be another kind of decision-making committee, or at least a committee to sign off decisions, which would include Sir Dave Brailsford, Jim Radcliffe, and also Joel Glazer. And that when Thomas Tuchel went away from that, he kind of felt, well, that is an awful lot of voices in the mix. That it wasn't a case that he was going to get no influence at all, but having a voice as one of 3 people is a louder voice than, say, having a voice among 7 people. And you point out there that he has had kind of run-ins, hasn't he, with other hierarchies in the past, Chelsea for different reasons, PSG for different reasons. And that in the summer, it wasn't as simple as Ineos looking at all these different candidates, sitting down with Thomas Tuchel and actually saying, actually, we think that we've got the right manager here, Ten Hag, so we're not going to appoint you. It was very much a mutual kind of departure from those talks, that Thomas Tuchel wasn't particularly sure. Ineos, again, weren't particularly sure, because also they had Ten Hag in position, who had just won the FA Cup. I think the interesting point after that is that Tuchel, apparently, or his representative, stayed in touch with United and Ineos, and that there was maybe an expectation that if things were to go south at Man United early on in the season, that they could go back to Tuchel and sort of say, look, like, how do you feel now, kind of thing. Obviously, now that option has been completely removed, and the day that Thomas Tuchel was appointed as England manager, in a roundabout way, I think is probably a very, very good day for Erik Ten Hag, because the pool of managers that United were selecting from in the summer is now an awful lot smaller. That if you were to make a decision on Erik Ten Hag, say in the November international break, well, there's no Tuchel now, he's gone to England. There's no Pochettino, he's got a job with the US. Gareth Southgate has said that he's not going to coach for a year. That pool of managers, this huge pool of managers that they were kind of sounding out in the summer, between sort of April and mid-June, has shrunk massively. And that is going to play a part now in what happens with Erik Ten Hag. I mean, obviously, Ineos, they've kind of put their money behind him now, and in the summer said, we think we've got the right guy for the job. I think that probably they felt, bidding him in September, October would look quite embarrassing, given that they, extended his contract in the summer and kind of put their faith in him. The November break is there's a little bit more distance between that decision and November, and so it becomes more of a possibility if results don't pick up. But the massive question then is, if the results don't pick up, who do you get? Because
Van Nistelrooy.
Well, but if you were starting from scratch to look for a Man United manager, say 2 years ago or a year ago, would you pick the guy who's had one season at PSV, or are you appointing him purely because he happens to be in the building, like Kath the receptionist?
Give it Rude to the rest of the season. Give it Rude.
That looks like that's going to be the simplest option now, and simply because he is in the building. Great player for Man United. He's had 1 year at PSV Eindhoven. That in terms of coaching stature, he may well go on to be a fantastic coach and manager, and this clip will come back to bite me in 10 years' time. But right now, that experience isn't there. So either you appoint Rude in the hope that he's going to show that he's this fantastic manager in the way that's kind of, and have a great run of results in the way that Solskjaer did, and then it becomes a no-brainer to appoint him, or he does it to the end of the season, and you go back to Southgate, who Ineos have made no secret of the fact that they really love him and really like him in that kind of structure, the structure that Tuchel said he wasn't particularly keen on. And then you've got to face fan reaction. And I do sometimes wonder whether Ineos understand the level of fan reaction that they would get if they appointed Southgate, because it would not be pretty.
A couple of things to say there. I mean, firstly, just on Tuchel, I do wonder whether he might have had a conversation with Ralf Rangnick about United, because those two go back a long, long way. I think it was Rangnick who got Tuchel into coaching in the first place, and they have remained friends. And it would make a lot of sense to me for Tuchel. I don't know this; I have no information to this effect, but I do wonder whether Tuchel would have. You would think it's logical, right, that he would sound out, people who would know United. And obviously Rangnick was absolutely scathing about the state of United and the infrastructure and all the changes that needed to be made to that club. So you sort of think that would have put him on the back foot in terms of considering United from the get-go. In terms of names to replace Ten Hag, I mean, let me throw another one at you, Graham Potter. I mean, he is out of work. He would take it in a heartbeat. He obviously had a significant setback at Chelsea and the job, and I covered him during that time, and the job, there were times where you felt this job just seemed a little bit too big for him. Maybe it came a little bit too early. He wasn't quite ready for it. He's talked a lot about since in interviews about sort of learning from that experience and kind of, not growing up, that's a bit patronizing, but you know what I mean, kind of developing as a manager and improving. I suspect I know the answer to this, but if Graham Potter was appointed, how would that go down with the Man United fans?
I guess I would say that it would be more well received than Southgate, but not by much because of the incidents you've just mentioned there with what happened at Chelsea. I mean, Graham Potter is certainly someone who has been sounded out. I mean, I think it's been reported before. Graham Potter obviously appeared on Monday Night Football in England and was asked directly, have you had conversations about Man United? And he kind of stumbled over it in a way that made you think, well, yeah, of course you have. The thing with Potter perhaps is that he has got history with Ineos. Ineos tried to appoint him, I think, as Nice manager when they were looking last summer, and he turned it down. So they're obviously someone that they're quite keen on. I guess it depends whether it's Graham Potter or Gareth Southgate, whether Ineos can stomach the negative fan reaction around that, whether they're sitting back and saying, well, we don't really care about what the fans say because we're in these positions of power and we're kind of the experts. We kind of know best, which is fair enough. Should you listen to fans every step of the way? Definitely not. You just have to look at Twitter to see some of the opinions that are out there. But it would be a big gamble because a manager who starts on the back foot, in a way that Benitez, for example, started at Everton, great manager, but completely the wrong fit. It's very, very hard to come back from that, even if you are a fantastic manager. And my opinion of managers and clubs, and this goes back to Tuchel and England, a manager is only as good as the fit. You can be a great manager at the wrong time at the wrong club. You can be a mediocre manager in a great fit at a great club and do really, really well. I do wonder whether, I suppose in the fullness of time, we'll learn whether Tuchel and international football in England is the right fit. And maybe beyond that, we'll see whether Southgate, Man United and Ineos is the right fit.
During this period, have you ever missed Manchester United? Do you ever think back to those days? Do you still watch their games?
Truly talking, I had so many problems. I didn't have time to think about about Manchester United or anything. I was thinking just to get rid of all my problems and play, But obviously, I watch Manchester United. This is for sure. This is a club. I still have a teammate, my old teammate there. So I like to watch the games. Manchester United is still one of the biggest clubs in the world. This is the truth. And but no, nothing. I wasn't thinking about most stuff.
What do you think about what's happening at United at the moment when you watch them?
What I'm thinking about
some of
United
their fans
at the moment right now.
The fans are suffering.
They do this. They do suffer. What do they want? What do they want?
They want to get back to what United were like when you first arrived at Old Trafford.
And what do they expect?
They expect, at the moment.
What do they expect?
They don't expect very much.
The question is right in front of you. You're asking me, I'm never going to go and destroy the club that I played with. Okay? This is not me. I respect all the players that are there. I think they are doing their best, and I think there's talented players. I think there's a lot of media on Manchester United, and I just think they need time, truly talking, and you need to talk about the club on top, and let the time that United needs to get back, like the example I would say Arsenal. Arsenal had a long time to get back to the top, and right now they are, let's say, dominating the league with Man City and Liverpool. You know, it's a big club. It's Manchester United. I believe that they will come back at the top one day, and reality is not to. Well, right now they are not at the top, so reality is not today.
When you were at Manchester United and throughout your career, you've sort of had quite a lot of criticism, and I've noticed that other Manchester United players as well, like Marcus Rashford, Jesse Lingard, Jadon Sancho, they seem to be sort of a focus of a lot of attention. Do you think that's got something to do with them, or something to do with the media, or is it something to do with Manchester United?
I'm gonna ask you one more time. Who was the players?
You, Marcus Rashford, Jesse Lingard, Jadon Sancho.
Okay. Why the criticism? Why? For the performance or for something else?
People always seem to have a lot to say
About the performance or about something else?
I think as a whole there seems to be a lot of focus, and that the players themselves would feel that it's unfair, or it's over the top at times.
I will tell you what I think. I think you're in the biggest club, in one of the biggest club in the world, the biggest club in England, with a lot of fans. I think the biggest fan in England for sure. And they want they need to say something, I guess. They want the players, and you know, when somebody speak, it can be Jadon. Jadon is a talented player, and all the players that you talked about are talented. And you try to point, for years in the media been trying to point off on players, right? Which one player, two players, but you win as a team. I never hear, let's say Man City that win, you only point at one player. Yeah, there is one big player. You can name Kevin De Bruyne, you can name Rodri, you can name Haaland, but they always play as a team, and you win as a team. And when they don't play well, they don't play well. The team doesn't play well. It's not that only those players weren't playing well and the rest were playing well, because you change the perception of the thing. If Manchester United win, it will be totally different. When you win, you're always good. You get good criticism. When you lose, you're gonna get criticism. It's like that in the big clubs. Manchester United is a big club.
Can I ask you one more question on Manchester United? Just Sir Alex Ferguson.
Yes.
Obviously somebody you know well.
Yes.
It's just been in the news that Manchester United decided that he's not going to be a paid club ambassador anymore, and he's not going to be going into the dressing room. And some former United players like Rio Ferdinand, I think, and Eric Cantona especially, have come out to criticise that decision.
Okay.
Were you surprised to hear that he was going to not be a paid club ambassador?
What does that mean?
But at the moment, he's paid, and he goes to games, and he's got privileges at the games, which I think he's still going to get.
Yeah. But would it change what he done for the club? I don't think he will change what he done. The only thing that I hear is that he won't get paid anymore. And Sir Alex Ferguson will always be Sir Alex Ferguson. He's still in the history, he will be in the history forever. Right, so the only thing I hear is the money right now. But it's Sir Alex Ferguson. It's a legend. And he will always be a legend of Manchester United.
Can I just ask you something I read? I wanted to see if you agreed with this. It's something that Jesse Lingard wrote on the weekend in an English newspaper, The Times. He said, another of my boys is Paul Pogba. We connected from day one when he arrived in United's academy, age 16. I love the kid. So many people want to judge him, but I always think, geez, you just don't know him as a person. If you actually sat down and spoke to Paul, you'd find he's one of the humblest individuals you'll ever meet. and football, he loves it to death. He has so much dedication, his own personal trainers, physios, chefs. But I just think that, as with me, a certain section of the public forms an impression from social media. You know, when we've seen dancing or having fun, all we're doing is expressing ourselves and trying to connect with our followers. We're happy-go-lucky, good energy, good vibes. We live in the moment. What's wrong with that? Do you think that sums you up?
No, it's always good. You know, Jesse is a really close friend of mine, you know. Like he said, it's the truth. We always connect and we always have this good energy. And when that time at United we were like this and we were winning, it was never a problem, obviously. Like I say, we're in a big club. And I want to clarify something about because I've been hearing stuff that Wayne Rooney once said, we lost a game and me and Jesse were dancing in the changing room. We need this. You need always other opinion, a witness on this. Okay. So if somebody can confirm what Wayne Rooney said when we were in the changing room, I will accept it. But if there is not, that's mean it's not true. And when Jesse Lingard tell you, did Jesse Lingard confirm that? Never. I never confirmed that because I am someone. I'm a very bad loser, and I respect what I do. I respect the club. After a game that I lose, me coming to the dressing room, putting music, and Wayne Rooney, the legend of the club, sitting there and not saying nothing to us? Does he match? Do you think he match? Nobody in the club will come and say nothing to us dancing after we lose a game.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we've got some important updates ahead of Manchester United's clash with Brentford this Saturday. Let's dive right in. First up, some unfortunate news for United fans. Midfielder Kobbie Mainoo is set to be sidelined for a few weeks due to a muscle injury he sustained during the recent 0-0 draw against Aston Villa. This means he'll miss out on the international break as well. Alongside him, Harry Maguire is also dealing with an injury from the same match. So, it's a tough blow for Erik ten Hag as he prepares for the upcoming fixture. On a brighter note, Nasser Mazraoui has returned to training after undergoing a precautionary procedure for heart palpitations. While he's back on the pitch at Carrington, it's still unclear if he'll be fit for the match against Brentford. In addition, Alejandro Garnacho and Amad Diallo are back after missing international duty due to injuries and illness. So, there's hope for some reinforcements in the squad. Now, shifting gears to Brentford. Manager Thomas Frank has come out in support of Erik ten Hag, stating that the criticism aimed at him is too much. Frank emphasized that coaching is a tough gig, especially when results fluctuate. He noted that while ten Hag has won 2 trophies in 2 seasons, the pressure can be overwhelming. When you win, the coach is brilliant. When you lose, it's a different story, Frank explained. He believes it's a collective effort that determines a team's success. Brentford currently sits 11th in the Premier League with 10 points, just 2 ahead of United in 14th place. Frank remains focused on his team's performance rather than United's recent struggles. He mentioned that has seen teams turn their form around unexpectedly and stressed the importance of going into Old Trafford with confidence. We believe we can beat any team, he said, but acknowledged that United is always a formidable opponent. So there you have it. Injury updates and insights as we gear up for what promises to be an exciting match between Manchester United and Brentford. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more updates. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think will come out on top? Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Manchester United executives meet fans protest group a new era of engagement. In a groundbreaking move, senior officials from Manchester United have met with members of the 1958, a fans group known for its vocal opposition to the Glazer family's ownership. This meeting marks the first time the club has engaged directly with the group behind many recent protests at Old Trafford. The discussion, lasting 80 minutes, included United's Chief Operating Officer Colette Roche and Director of Fan Engagement Rick McGarr, and was reportedly initiated by CEO Omar Barada. The 1958 group has been instrumental in organising significant protests against the Glazers, including high-profile demonstrations during home games. In a notable incident from January 2022, members of the 1958 planned to protest outside the Cheshire residence of then-CEO Richard Arnold. However, Arnold intervened and ultimately met with supporters at a nearby pub to address their concerns. United has been striving to enhance its engagement with fans in recent years, and the new Ineos-led management is eager to broaden these efforts. Following the meeting, the 1958 described the discussion as positive and productive, suggesting it could represent a significant step forward in fan engagement. They also announced the formation of a new coalition called FC58, which will serve as the official supporter representation arm of the 1958. A dedicated FC58 website is set to launch this week. Representative Steve Crompton shared his thoughts. The meeting went very well. We discussed our plans for FC58, emphasizing our commitment to independent fan representation without any hidden agendas. Our upcoming launch will clarify this vision and signal a much-needed new dawn for fan engagement. In recent years, Manchester United has held regular meetings with various fan groups, including the Fans Advisory Board, Fans Forum, and the Manchester United Supporters Trust Must. These channels aim to ensure that supporters have a voice within the club. A spokesperson for United stated, "We value dialogue with our fans and regularly meet with different groups as part of this approach. Our main engagement channels remain the Fans Advisory Board, Fans Forum, and Must, which provide fans a platform to express their views." Injury update: key players affected. In other news, midfielder Kobbie Mainoo has been sidelined for several weeks due to a muscle injury sustained during the recent 0-0 draw against Aston Villa. This injury has forced him to withdraw from England's upcoming matches against Greece and Finland, potentially keeping him out for around 6 games. Harry Maguire is also expected to miss a few weeks due to a calf injury. On a more positive note, United reported that Luke Shaw and Mason Mount are making steady progress in their recoveries. Tyrell Malacia participated in part of Thursday's training session. He hasn't played since May 2023, while Shaw last featured in February. Unexpectedly, Nasser Mazraoui joined training after undergoing a heart procedure. However, it's still uncertain if he'll be available for Saturday's match against Brentford. Alejandro Garnacho and Amad Diallo have also returned to training after missing international duties due to injury and illness. Midfielder Manuel Ugarte took part in a recovery session following his return from international duty with Uruguay. Stay tuned for more updates on Manchester United as they navigate these pivotal moments both on and off the pitch.